near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. Which, you know that probably if you're watching this. So I assume you know. Anyway, today I'm going to give you my overview of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1. This is the Absolute Edition, back in print from DC Comics. So let's take a look at this together. And welcome back, everybody. So what we're looking at here is the latest Absolute Edition. Today, we are looking at the new printing of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1. This previously came out, oh my gosh, I want to say it's one of the earliest DC Absolute Editions. And there was a Volume 2. And there has been a release of the Omnibus Edition 2 that collects the stories in here. So we'll do a comparison to that here in a little bit. But first, I did want to say it does come shrink wrapped in plastic, and we also get a leaflet. So you can see ISBN down here. This doesn't really tell you what the book is about at all. I find that interesting. Most of the time the leaflets do. The retail price of this 2025 edition is $100. And one thing you're going to see that is unique about this, and it does happen from time to time, whether it's Batman Year One, or books like this, or Crisis on Infinite Earths. I am curious if they're going to do that again with the Absolute Crisis that they're doing later. But you do have two books here. So let's get both of those out. And in a very rare case, not only... Here, let's look in here. No patterns or anything. And then down here is also the ISBN. Rated T+. So the DC logo has even changed, the Bullet logo. But the Black Label logo is down there. So because this wasn't really printed as a Black Label book, but I guess it fits the mold of a Black Label book because it was printed at the American Best Comics. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. So this gives you an idea of what's in here. So you have the League of So this gives you an idea of what's in here. You have the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the Absolute Edition, and then scripts by Alan Moore. So it's separated that way. I will be comparing it to the Omnibus Edition. This collects the Black Dozier and Volumes 1 and 2. So this collects everything that DC can print because, well, unfortunately, they can't print everything. Underneath the dust jackets, so let's look at the flaps here. So these are... cover and slipcase art by Kevin O'Neill, designed by Todd Klein. And then the back of this Absolute Edition. Now let's look underneath here. These are very classy. I really like that. It's like a gold foil stamp on leather. Cover slipcase by Kevin O'Neill, designed by Todd Klein. This, I think, is just words from his script. But that's Alan Moore right there. And, of course, our characters. But I really like this. Let's get this out of the way. This is nice. This gives it a really classy look. I want to say, like, if you lived in the 70s and 80s, people that would go door to door selling Encyclopedia Britannica, and that's what the encyclopedias look like. Not just Britannica, but any knockoff encyclopedia kind of look like this, where you had like a leather bound, and it does feel like leather, but I know it's got to be faux leather. And then, of course, the gold foil right here. Very classy looking. I'm surprised they didn't keep it with this and gave it a dust jacket, because this makes it look really fancy, because we are talking about literary characters. So the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1, the Absolute Edition, Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill. And over here is the scripts, Alan Moore, of course. Although, don't be fooled, this does have more than just scripts. So what I'm going to do is open this book up, talk about the stories found in here, and then compare it to the Omnibus Edition, just really quick, and then look at exactly what the scripts are. All right, let's go ahead and get this book opened. Here's your end sheets featuring our main characters. And is that the moon, or is that something else? Man, do I love Kevin O'Neill. Deeply missed for sure. And the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1, 1898. Over here is sort of your introduction by S. Miles. Over here on the left-hand side, it's very important. Of course, this is written by Alan Moore, drawn by the legendary Kevin O'Neill, William Oakley doing the lettering, and then Mr. Benedict Dimaj Milai. Sorry about that. Of course, friend of the channel, Scott Doonbeer, putting all this together. He was the editor in charge of the book. And yes, the introduction here. And it's a very British and interesting introduction. What this collects, this Absolute Edition, are the 6 issues of Volume 1 of League. Also the scripts, the books, both of them together, total 416 pages. And again, retails for $100. So what is this about? In case you have not seen the 2003 movie, good on you, you dodged a bullet, but, you know, some people like it. So we start in Dover, May of 1898, and we meet this guy right here who is being greeted by this young lady that comes and approaches him. And she approaches him as saying Mr. Bond, and you're like, oh, what? Like James Bond? Close. This is Campion Bond, the grandfather of Jimmy, James Bond. And the lady that approached him is none other than Mina Murray. Now, she did have a last name that was different before. It was Harkness because of her husband. And if you've read Bram Stoker's Dracula, then you know that she was a character there. And the reason why she got divorced and changed her last name, that will be explained as you read the book. So as he's here, he's telling her that he is recruiting her because her country needs her, the Empire needs her. And it's all because of the mysterious M right here. And I love this back and forth between the characters. It's like, yes, our landlord, Mr. M, he's the one that hired me to go and recruit a menagerie of characters to join on this expedition, if you will. And she's like, oh, quit with the code. We all know M stands for Mycroft Holmes. And I don't know why they keep calling him Mr. M. But is it Mycroft? Well, we'll find out later on, or I guess you will if you're reading this. So the first thing is, this is May of 1898. In June of 1898, she takes what looks to be a underwater ship, perhaps submarine at the time, and ends up in Cairo, where she is looking for a Mr. Quatermain. And this is Alan Quatermain, and he is having a vision quest, if you will. And the people that guided her to him are trying to assault her. Like, so Quatermain wakes up out of his vision quest to save her life. You know, she's about to be sexually assaulted. And he ends up killing one of the guys, and then she ends up killing the other guy. Now everybody's coming after them. And they escape to the sea, where they are greeted by the Nautilus. That's right. So this is Captain Nemo we're going to be looking at. So these are literary characters that we're going to be reading about. And what is she doing? She is assembling them, if you will. So much like the Avengers, and probably really more like the Justice League because of the name The League, they are characters that have existed before. What makes this unique is that they're not comic book characters. They are literary characters. So if you've read a lot, especially if you read a lot in school because of books you had to, you're going to love this because the payoff is amazing, right? You're like, oh my gosh, Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You're right, Alan Quatermain from Solomon's Mines. And then you'll see who the next characters are, and you're like, oh my gosh, this has a lot of Easter eggs. Well, you already know of Bond. There is a couple of characters in here. I'm not sure if they come from the book or if they were created by Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill, but you can find out for yourself, and you're going to be like, of course they're characters from the Bond. I never read the Bond books. I've only seen the movies. So, of course, I knew of M and, of course, Bond. And although Campion is a character that he did create, I don't think Bond ever said he had a grandfather named Campion in the movies. Unless he's from the books. I don't think he is, though. So, later on their journey, now with Alan Quatermain, a little more sober, takes them to Paris, where they encounter a Henry Jekyll, a Dr. Henry Jekyll. There are murders going around, and they're thinking that it's some kind of creature that's doing it, and sure enough, it is Edward Hyde, Mr. Hyde. So it is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde here that they are introduced to, and they end up capturing him and taking him back to the Nautilus. And in the Nautilus, you're going to see other characters like Ishmael being like his first mate. Ishmael, of course, coming from the pages of Moby Dick, and I'm not going to go through each character and telling you where they're coming from. I just assume most people know. Because, yes, if you grew up, at least here in America, there were certain books you had to read by the time you got to your sophomore year in high school. Whether it was something you enjoyed, A Confederacy of Dunces, I love that book, or whether you were something that you were, like, forced to read, like Great Expectations. And if you love Great Expectations, man, more power to you. But then there's beautiful books that you read, like To Kill a Mockingbird. But these are characters, if you probably noticed, this was originally coming out in 1999. And these are characters that kind of became, like, I guess, in a way, they became public domain. So in 1999, Alan Moore had this idea. As a matter of fact, actually, his idea was with his wife, the lady that drew, Lost Girls. And it's where they take characters from books and they kind of put them together like a mashup in a different way than this is. This is actually to work for the Empire. The next person they're going to meet at a school for women is somebody that is assaulting the women. And yeah, there is no other way to put this. In the middle of sexually assaulting somebody, it turns out that the Invisible Man, Holly Griffin, is the one that's causing this, like impregnating some of these girls. And some of the characters that you're going to see there, like Pollyanna, as a matter of fact, she's the one that is getting assaulted, are from other books. Now, once this team is assembled, again, taking place in 1898, their mission, should they don't have a choice to accept it, is to go and retrieve something back. A compound. It's an anti-gravity compound called the Cavorite. And the Cavorite is wanted by both the nefarious doctor, who is really Fu Manchu, and another character that wants it. But you can find out who the other character is. And they are at battle with each other. This character that I can't say who it is because I want people to enjoy this and read it without going into spoilers. And then, of course, the doctor who is Fu Manchu. Now, because this is based in the late 1800s, because these characters are literary characters, you're going to see a lot of stereotypes when it comes to the different characters from other countries, if you will. And I know some people have problems with that, and if you do, you don't have to read this. Absolutely. Nor people that can't read anything about sexual assault. This is not for you either. But I did want to tell you, like, the characters are very stereotypical of the way they looked back then, they were portrayed back then. And I know people are like, well, this is in 1999, why did they have to do that? I don't know. I'm not Alan Moore. That dude's a wizard. I'm just the guy doing an overview of the book and letting people know what to expect. But also to expect is the brilliance of Kevin O'Neill. Now, I know this dynamic art style, this cartoony, almost unfinished looking art style is not for everybody, but I happen to love it. I wasn't really aware of his work outside of this, and it wasn't until the kind folks at 2000 AD started sending me books years ago, like 5 years, I don't know, 6 now, 6 years ago, and I started getting huge into Judge Dredd, that I noticed his art was very prominent over there. Then, of course, in Nemesis, and I just started falling in love with it. It does definitely have a cartoon feel to his art. And I don't know. I just love his panel layouts. And I'm so glad they printed this, or reprinted it rather, in an absolute format, because I think this might be the best way to read it, especially with all the little details that he puts in each and every one of these frames. And they are brilliantly just put together, especially when we're looking at like a 9-panel grid over here, kind of separating you from what's happening here in the action. I love that. That's wonderful. Now, that's all I will say about the story. Let's look at the extras in the back, because we are looking at Volume 1, and Volume 1 isn't that long. In the back, there is a story about Alan Quatermain and the Sundered Veil. In the back, this is a story about Alan Quatermain and the Sundered Veil. This is about him going on that vision quest, as I mentioned. Apparently, he was addicted to opium. But in there, it kind of foreshadows the things that are to come later on in the second book, primarily. So while this is like Victorian England type of characters, the next book will have like a sci-fi twist to it that I was like, oh, he's not just sticking around there. I mean, we already see H.G. Wells' Invisible Man in here, but we're going to go further than that. We're going to go to space, perhaps. These are, of course, our main characters right there. Oh, I didn't talk about Dupin right there, but I love Holly Griffith's art right there, his little photo. And then originally published as 6 issues right here. The cigarettes in penny packets. And more of these extras right here. Painting by numbers. And puzzles. And before we look at the script, I did want to go ahead and do a quick little comparison because it is going to be different than the Omnibus edition. So this Omnibus was also printed as a compendium before they had compendiums, but it does have the exact same type of content, plus volume 2 and of course the Black Doge. And then this is kind of what it looks like. Of course, this is bigger than over here, because we're looking at an absolute edition. But I did want to compare the colors, really. Because it does have a different paper stock. I'm a monster. I didn't take off my dust jacket. It does have a different paper stock. It's a thicker paper stock for the absolute edition compared to the Omnibus. This is still glossy, but this is a thicker paper stock. And the colors just seem a little bit lighter over here. And less bleed through happening, as you can see over here. Panels are coming from the opposite side, so whenever there's lighter colors or whites, you can see word bubbles coming from the other side. Over here, not so much. It's more prominent in the Omnibus, but this kind of gives you an idea. It looks like a little bit more of a yellowish tone than the red tone over here. That's due to the paper stock. Now, let's look at the script. I'm going to go ahead and warn you that if you ever wanted to become a comic book writer, the last thing you want to look at is an Alan Moore script, because you will immediately turn away from becoming a comic book writer, and I'll show you why. So it's not just the script pages. We actually have some sketches in here by Kevin O'Neill, and it's just wonderful. And it's a damn shame because, man, like, they could have done so much more too. So even though this was at ABC, the American Best Comics, that was published under Jim Lee with Wildstorm, and when DC bought out Wildstorm, it came over to them, and then Alan Moore has had a problem with DC for a long time, going back all the way to Watchmen. You know, I'm not here to say whose side people should be on, but like, if you go back and look at exactly what happened, you can see why he's heartbroken, and then you can argue, like, why is he being so stubborn, or why is DC doing him this way? That's up to you. I'm going to say this. This right here, page 1, panel 1, is how Alan Moore writes a script. Most writers don't really do this, right? So we're going to compare it like that. This right here is page 1, panel 1. So we're going to go back to this. Here we go. Scratch your call. Like, so descriptive. Like, this panel right here. That's it in the caption. Dover, May 1898, which you see right here. Again, never look at an Alan Moore script if, like, it's your first script as a comic book writer. Not every comic book writer... Oh, I'm sorry. I did not even mean to turn a page. Just force of habit. We're still on panel 2. Panel 3. No dialogue. No dialogue. 4, 5, 6. Finally, we get some dialogue here with 5 and then 6 right there. But this gives you an idea of just how much control Alan Moore has. I remember, I think it was The Watchmen that I had trade paperback, and one of them came with a script of like issue 1, and I looked at it and I went, no, I don't think I'm meant to write comics. That's like writing a novel. That's insane. But again, it's just the way that he does it. He likes having control, explaining what, everything is symbolic to him, and everything has a reason for being there. Not every script that Alan Moore wrote is like this, but this kind of gives you an idea as to how he works with it, his artists. Some artists, like Steve Dillon and of course Kevin O'Neill, actually, dug it. And some just probably couldn't handle it. It's not for everybody, that's for sure. Both books, by the way, forgot to mention, come with a bookmark. A ribbon bookmark. And then again, you'll have sketches and thumbnail sketches and layouts from time to time from Kevin O'Neill right here in this book. And the backs have actual different panels from the book too, but I don't think those are too easy to see. I think there was an artist edition of this released a few years back. So layouts in between this, it's just really cool to me to see how someone like him writes. This is only 6 issues right here. Where if you look at other writers and their scripts, it's not nearly as detailed. This is an afterword by Kevin O'Neill with some character designs. And this book is also printed in a thick glossy paper stock. So let's look at the binding. Both books have 416 pages together. Both of them have sewn binding and printed in this thick glossy paper stock. And that's it. Oops, almost forgot to put the ribbon up. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this Absolute Edition, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this Absolute Edition. And of course, the quick comparison to the Omnibus. Will they reprint Volume 2? I can only assume one day we'll get a reprint of it. But what other books would you love to see get the absolute treatment? Whether it's just DC Comics or ABC. Oh my gosh, I'd love a Tom Strong. Anyway. Of course, we're getting Promethea. But what other books from DC would you love to see get the absolute treatment? That's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.